All right, hi guys. If you reach this part of the course, the chapter 10 writing contracts chapter, you'll see that I have provided inside the Turning Pro course a lot of contract document templates for animators to use. So if we scroll down, we've got about 13 documents here. They kind of vary in their applications and their usability. Some of them I use a lot, some of them I don't use, but are good to learn from anyway. Like, even if you don't use some of these contracts, if you read through them, you'll be like, that's interesting. They mentioned this, and this thing is important. I should consider that when I enter into an agreement with someone, when I enter into a business relationship. Now, I've got lectures in this part, as you can see on the side. I've got lectures that actually break down conceptually what's important inside a contract for animators, where animators can send a contract to their client. It's not just that clients can send a contract to the animators. You can make the first move, you can take initiative and send a contract for your client to sign. And it can be a mutually beneficial contract, and I would recommend you have a look at these and potentially use one. And I've made these very easy to adapt as long as you have Microsoft Word. Even if you don't have Microsoft Word, you can drag them into Google Docs, which is on the cloud, and I believe it's free. So you can also adapt them this way, but I have Microsoft Word here. So that's what I'm going to use. And so basically all of these contracts I already have here downloaded, of course, because I created them. So I've been working on them a lot. It took me a lot of work to do this, and I really hate writing, but I stuck it out because I knew that this would help a lot of you guys. Now let's have a little exploration, shall we? Let's have a little look through. So first of all, we've got the all-purpose animator letter of agreement. Let's see what I've written here. This all-purpose animator's letter of agreement establishes terms under which an animator provides creative work to a client. Okay, so this is a very broad one. It's often typically signed when you're going to be working for a client for a long time, because maybe you wouldn't bust this out on like a commission that would take you a few days. This is more like, oh, you think you're going to be in this for the long run, you're going to be in there for a while doing a really big project. And it's not one that I use as much. The first thing you notice when you go into one of these documents is the highlighted parts, right? They really jump out at you. And that's because those are the parts that you need to customize, because it doesn't make sense for a contract to just have nothing customizable, right? You're going to have your own situation. Let's say here, limitations on geographical use for an animation that you're granting the usage rights to a client, okay? So it says North American here, but what if it's not North American? What if it's European? So you just double click and it takes away the highlight. As soon as you customize it, it takes away that highlight and it just works perfectly. What about here? Name of your state. Let's say your state is California. It just integrates perfectly. I want to jump to the ones that are really, really useful, because some of these are just kind of interesting to know about and you might not end up using them. If you're just wanting to do things a bit less formally, I can understand that. But some of them you really should consider using if you're not already, which you probably are. But maybe my contract templates are better than the ones you've been using. You never know. So the first one we'll say is, let's go to the big text. You see, this one, I made the text big so you can find it easily. And this is the invoice. The digital media invoice is more of an invoice / contract. Whereas the invoice for animation services, this is more like a receipt of purchase. It's just a very simple one-page invoice that you send to your client whenever you need your client to make a payment, whenever that payment is due. I use this all the time. This is my bread and butter. And having a template to work from, you just bring that template up, you customize it, and it streamlines the whole process for you. So first of all, invoice 1 of 2. So this is typically set to default, so 50% before, 50% payment after, but maybe you've already sent them one and now you're at the end of the project, so you would change that to 2 of 2. And then the date of the invoice. This is for your client information, this is your information. You might think, why do I need to list all this information? Trust me, when you're having to do your taxes, or you're thinking, what was the client's email address, things like that, you'll be very grateful that you just took the time to list some of this key information out on here. And I just made it very simple, payment to, and then the name of your company, if you're a company, or just your name if you're not a company, for animation services from, and then the start of the project date to the end. So it just shows the duration of work that you did, which is great for tax reasons. Okay, you can add more line items to this if you had to pay an extra expense like travel or something like that. You can add it here to the line items. I put VAT here. I know a lot of you don't do VAT because a lot of you aren't in the EU, but it's there. This might be at 10%, 20%. Then look, we just added this little thing in, payable within 14 days. So you give the client a deadline to pay it. I think the client appreciates that as well. The client will put that at the top of their to-do list and you'll get paid faster. And then just your banking information. So this is all ready to go, ready for you to plug into your business. So the general purpose sign off, this is a very general document. You can just send this to your client and get your client to sign off on a design, on a major decision that has been made. That makes the client commit to a decision you made, which means that you can then move forward with the surety that the client will not just suddenly change their mind on a design, on a storyboard, on an animatic iteration. Once the client has signed this, then you can move forward, and it's going to cost the client extra if they want to change it, right? So you can just drag and drop a preview image in here if you want, or you can just reference the file that you've sent them. You can just drop the name in here. I've made it so that it's very adaptable to all kinds of different things you could send the client and get their sign off, right? So it's saying after signing this, if you then change your mind on the design of the main character, for example, then it's the artist's choice whether or not to charge you extra for it, because you will have already committed in writing. You will have signed this and committed to working with that design, see? So you can send these task sign-off sheets when you deliver some intermediate deliverables such as the storyboard or the designs, the environment designs, things like that. And you can just wait until your client is happy to sign off, and then you can move forward with it. Now, if after signing off with this, your client decides to change the design once more because they changed their mind, which is infuriating for animators when that happens, well, you can send them a work change order form. The work change order form is something you can send the client if or when the client decides to change their mind about a major thing with the animation, like the design or like the environment, something like that, which will take a lot more work from you. You can send them a work change order form and make it official and raise the price, of course, and this can be how you do it. So yeah, those two documents used in tandem with each other can have really big positive effects on your business when you bring them in. I know it's more bureaucracy, but that is the kind of paperwork that can keep you safe, so that the client can't just completely switch up on you and expect you to do those changes free of charge without any extra costs involved. Now, I've also got documents in here that can help when you're wanting to branch out from being not just a freelance animator, but also branch out to being a studio. So if you want to hire subcontract artists, there are certain things you might want that artist to sign to protect you and to protect both of you. One of those examples is a non-competition clause. So here's the non-competition clause. The idea of a non-competition clause is that you can bring an artist in to work on a project, and you can even share the client's contact details with that artist that's working under you. And it's an agreement that the artist that you've brought onto the project is not allowed to compete with you. They're not allowed to kind of undermine your relationship with the client by going to the client directly and saying, hey, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, I want to do the work for cheaper and cut this guy out. You can't do that, okay? The non-competition clause is very simple. It's a piece of text you can add into your existing contract with the artist, or you can just create a contract around this clause. There's also the non-disclosure agreement. Some larger projects will want your secrecy if you're working on them. And if you're subcontracting someone, you might need to get them to sign a non-disclosure agreement for their secrecy as well, so that there's no spoilers coming out or anything like that. So this is a non-disclosure agreement and you can very quickly customize it. You can see here there's not many highlighted areas and you can quickly just punch in the details there and get their signature. Very, very easy, and it makes it very streamlined for you. So those are the ones that I'll show for now. The other ones you can discover by yourself. And when you take the lectures in this chapter of the course, it will become a lot more clear. Some of the more dense parts of it, you'll start to potentially understand them a little bit better. So that's just a brief overview of some of the contract document templates you can find in here and how to customize them. Just go to the highlighted bits. You can find them very easily. They're impossible to miss. You replace the highlighted text with your own text, and the highlighted parts of the text will give you hints for what to write there in case you're not sure. Okay, so they'll give you guidance, they'll give you recommendations. I've written them to really guide you through the whole process. This doesn't have to be super difficult for you. This can become really easy when you just use the right tools, use the right resources to protect you. I'll end the video there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.